Have you ever wondered how to really apply musicality to your salsa dancing, especially if you're a beginner? Maybe you take salsa dancing classes, and maybe you understand the science of salsa music, but once you have a vocabulary of moves, how can you put it all together musically on the dance floor? Well, in this video, we'll take a look at some helpful tips, including a special bonus at the end, so stay tuned. Welcome to Salsa Goals, a channel designed to break down salsa dancing concepts so you can build up a strong foundation on the dance floor. So don't forget to subscribe for all the latest videos. Now let's get started. In the first two parts of this video series, we learned that there are at least two main keys to musicality for salsa dancers. The first key is mental awareness, or an understanding of the science of salsa music. And the second key is physical creativity, or the ability to react to the music with your movements. Of course, there is really no substitute for good instruction when it comes to developing your foundation for salsa dancing moves and turn patterns. But how can you take what you learn and apply it on the dance floor with musicality? Well, here are some tips. Tip number 1. Pay attention to the repetition. Remember the musical structure of a salsa song? Every 4 beats of music is known as a measure of music, and when we put 2 of those measures together, we have 8 beats of music, which is the amount of time needed in order to complete the basic salsa time step. In fact, we can think of every 8 beats as a rhythmic cycle, and the salsa musicians will often repeat each cycle 4 times before making some type of change to the music. In fact, we can refer to such 4-cycle phrases as musical blocks. And if a particular instrument plays a brief melody during the first cycle of a musical block, the musicians may sometimes repeat that same melody during the 3rd cycle of that musical block. It's best if you can hear an example of this, so please check out the video link at the top right-hand corner of the screen for more information. Now, why is this important? It's important because it can help you predict the instrumental pattern coming up next in the music, even if you are hearing the song for the very first time. For example, imagine that the trumpets play a quick melody in the first cycle of a musical block. Well, it's very possible that that same melody will be repeated during the 3rd cycle of that musical block. So maybe you missed the chance to match your movements to the sounds of the trumpets the first time around, but since that pattern will likely be repeated, you can be ready for the next time. So if you're familiar with the science of salsa music, you can sometimes predict rhythmic patterns in this way, even if you haven't heard the song before. And that applies to any rhythmic pattern, such as that of the trombones, the piano, the congas, the bass, the timbales, and even the rhythm of the lyrics. And since most salsa songs tend to follow these same structural rules, the best way to develop an ear for this is to listen to salsa music as much as possible. Also, dance to salsa music a lot, especially when you're by yourself, because musicality can be easier to express when dancing solo. Of course, it might be a little more difficult to express musicality during turn patterns, but there are some ways to do it. And that leads us to tip number 2. Learn the structure of a salsa song so that you can dance with the appropriate level of energy to match the music. Of course, you can dance however you want, but if your goal is to express musicality, then it's important that you pay attention to the music. For example, imagine a person who plays the electric guitar. When they are playing by themselves, then they can play any style of music they want, no matter the speed or the rhythm. But if they want to play along with a band, say a jazz band, well, that's different. In that situation, they can't just play whatever they feel like playing, or they could get thrown out of the band. Instead, they would have to play in harmony with the rest of the band. That means playing in tune, with the same tempo, with the same rhythm, and in the same musical style as everyone else. Likewise, if you're trying to dance salsa in a way that matches the music, then musicality is important. For example, you could structure your dancing to match the structure of the song. A salsa song usually has different sections. In fact, check out the link in the upper right-hand corner of the screen for more details on those different sections. But to sum it up, just as a small flame can turn into a big campfire, a salsa song will often start off calmly in the beginning and then pick up more energy later on. So if you want to be completely in sync with the music, then you also might want to dance more calmly in the beginning and save the higher energy turns for later on when the song really heats up. So, for an example of this, please check out the link at the top right-hand corner of the screen. And finally, we come to tip number 3. Don't bite off more than you can chew. What does that mean? Well, have you ever sent a text message to someone? Many messaging apps have pre-made quick reply messages that you can send to someone in order to save time. For example, something like, "I'm busy right now. Can I call you later?" Or, "I'm in a meeting." But could you have a conversation with your friend using only those quick reply messages? Probably not, because those pre-made messages would limit your ability to communicate the way you want. Instead, it would probably be better if you could choose your own words and arrange those words into unique sentences that match the topic of conversation. Well, we often learn new turn patterns and shine step sequences in salsa class. And while that really helps us build up a dance vocabulary, it doesn't always help us learn musicality, because it's easy to take those patterns that we learned in class and then try to practice them on the dance floor exactly the same way that we learned them, regardless of the song that we are dancing to. But remember that salsa musicality isn't about doing fancy moves and turn patterns that have nothing to do with the music. Instead, it's about learning how to make our moves fit the music. So just as you can respond more effectively to others when you're allowed to arrange different words into sentences that fit the topic of conversation, you can also react more effectively to the music when you can arrange different moves into improvised patterns that fit the music. So it might be helpful to take those turn patterns and shine footwork sequences and break them down into bite-sized moves that you can easily mix and match with other moves based on the music. And now it's time for that special bonus tip. Expand your knowledge of salsa musicality. Back in part 1 of this video series, we learned that the first key to salsa musicality is musical awareness. And it's important that we as dancers understand the basic science of salsa music so that we can dance to it well. But musicians need to know even more about salsa musicality in order to play it. Thankfully, salsa dancers don't need to have the complex level of musicality that musicians have. But if you want to really deepen your understanding of the science of salsa, then look no further than the Salsa Guidebook for Piano and Ensemble by Rebecca Mauleon. This highly recommended book is an excellent resource for anyone interested in learning more about salsa rhythms and musical history. And even if you're not interested in becoming a musician, the Salsa Guidebook will still make a great addition to your library. And if you are interested in learning how to play salsa music, then the Salsa Guidebook is definitely the best place to start. Because, without a doubt, a strong knowledge of musicality and musicology will certainly help you in your journey to become a better salsa dancer. Because, at the end of the day, that's what Salsa Goals is really all about. Yes, we all have goals when it comes to salsa dancing. So until next time, stay safe, stay connected to the music, and keep dancing salsa.